Hey guys, Stealth here and welcome to the update 1.1 patch notes. We'll be discussing the patch notes as they were presented, giving my opinion, and in the background you're going to be seeing some of the footage that I've used so far in the campaign. According to the patch notes, they have used our feedback as we provided that about the game. We being players, not necessarily content creators. Let's start with Field Commander battles. This is the actual battle as you're watching it on screen. They changed the battle timer. Normally, you used to have just 20 minutes, and I believe this was irrelevant or irrespective to difficulty. They've changed that, so it now scales. If you're playing on the lowest difficulty, called Recruit, you got 35 minutes. Trainee, 30 minutes, 25 minutes for Soldier, so if I were to start a new Soldier campaign right now, I'd get 25 minutes per battle instead of 20. And 20 sometimes was pushing it on Soldier difficulty. If you're playing a higher difficulty and you want to get a sweep, it's going to be substantially harder. Elite is at 20 minutes, and the one just below that I forgot, Veteran, also 20 minutes. So Veteran and Elite are unchanged. So if you really want a challenge, that's how you go about it. If you want to have it a bit easier, Recruit is going to give you a nice 35 minutes, which should be ample time to get your offense in order. They also increased the capture rate for control points. If you use a single company, and I didn't even know this scaled, but apparently having a single company versus a double company changes the time for capturing. So if you have more companies in a particular area and a particular control point, you'll be able to capture it faster. However, with the single company, they boosted the capture speed by 50%. So it is faster, and it now scales more smoothly with additional companies. The patch notes don't exactly provide a number saying, well, if you're going to go in with 4 companies, it's going to take X amount of time. If you go in with 1 company, it's going to take Y amount of time. Would be very useful to know, but sadly not provided. What they also did was changing the snipers. One of the research things that you can get is sniper infantry, or rather snipers, and these guys used to be attached to every single company. It's no longer true. Snipers are now going to be attached only to elite companies. If you're relying on snipers to pick off a couple of guys before the enemy company gets to you, well, you still can, but you're going to need an elite infantry group to do it. So, spacing out your elite infantry or making sure that you have an elite infantry company mingled with, let's say, a bunch of regulars, that's going to be more useful, not so much on the field commander map, but the strategic map. Also, the status icon was added to elite companies if they have sniper technology unlocked. Most of the time it was just guessing. Does the AI have it? Do they not? I don't know. Right now you can actually start to see that. And sniper fire is also blocked if the company is suppressed. So let's say that you have an attack coming in. Your company that gets attacked with artillery is suppressed. If that company, elite infantry company, has a sniper, that no longer works. That guy is going to be suppressed just as much as the rest of them. Whereas previously it was just a flat debuff, or I don't know, an area of effect weapon, although I find it hard to call it that. Moving on, the Theater Commander, aka the Strategic View. The starting national will has been changed. It used to be 450. They've now boosted that to 580. So they gave it a substantial buff, and I suspect that this might be because the campaign battles, or the campaigns in general, ended too soon. The campaigns just went way too fast, and in order to slow that down, they gave both sides more national will. The national will drain in 1918 was reduced to 30 per turn, which was previously 100. So if you get all the way to 1918... that's quite a long way away if you're playing 1914 start, then in 1918 your country is so tired of the war, it's going to start bleeding national will like crazy. But, of course, if you don't have that much national will left, it's going to go very, very quickly if you're bleeding 100 per month. They reduced that to 30, so that's an enormous downturn. And that, again, will probably extend campaigns for longer. National will values for battle wins and losses were changed. If you had a great loss, you now only take 10 national willpower hit as opposed to 16. Major victory, minor victory. Major victory / major loss changed to -6. Previously -5, so it's fairly small. A standard loss is now -3. It used to be -8. So losing a battle does not mean losing the war. And especially if you start losing, let's say, 15 battles, it's no longer near as painful as it used to be with that -8 stat. A minor loss is only a -1. It used to be a -5. It's a very, very sizable debuff. Or rather, a buff, I should say. Supply value for tank battalions and air wings was reduced to 0 to match siege artillery. What people used to do, and I've also been getting suggestions in the comment section, is get a bunch of airplane squadrons. Because airplanes grant a free 100 supply. And seeing as you can get aircraft early, this is a way to start getting a lot of supply very easily, very cheaply, and extremely mobile. Because you could use those stacks and move them around. That's no longer possible. The supply value has been reduced to 0. Same as siege artillery, no longer using the planes as a sort of magic button in case you need further firepower. Supply value bonus for airfield and mechanics garage structures was reduced to 5/10/25, and it used to be 20, 50, or 80. So you're no longer getting anywhere near as much supply value from the repair/supporting facilities that you used to either. Cost of mechanics garage was reduced to 600, 800, or 1000, and that used to be 800, 1200, or 2000. So they gave us a 50% discount now on the mechanic garage. So if you're going to go with tanks and you want to get your tanks repaired, that's going to be cheaper. Replenishment cost was of all infantry was reduced by 0.1 gold. It used to be 0.4 to 1.0 according to type. So elite infantry more expensive to replace than your basic conscript, and that has been changed. So ideally, you're no longer going to be seeing the AI take a massive loss and then take 2500 losses in gold as well. That's going to be reduced. Start to date potential for poison death gas mission. For poison death mission was moved forward. So, if I'm understanding this correctly, at some point the game asks you, please research gas masks, because it's going to be really useful. If you don't, your troops are going to die. Even if the AI doesn't actually use it, I think. That has been pushed forward. So, I believe that they mean that that is now going to be happening earlier in the war. Now, some AI changes, very, very useful. The AI, at least on soldier difficulty, as I was playing it, was a little easy at times. And once you understood sort of how the AI thinks, you can go, oh, so that's what they're doing. Or, oh, okay, you're just defending, you're not going to attack, fine. I'll just push every force like this way, and then, yeah, they weren't that hard. Region targets for offense will now be targeting more intelligently to preserve national will. Translation, the AI was pretty stupid in where it attacked on the strategic map, the theater map. So it could go with, let's say, a 5-stack or a 6-stack into a 6 or an 8, potentially. Which, of course, is going to cost them loads and loads and loads of national will. Because the chance of them actually winning that are extremely small. Supposedly that has now been changed. Now, I'm coming from Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts, where I've seen many, many patch notes that said, you know, we have changed the AI, we have improved the AI. So I've become a little skeptic, and I want to see it before I believe it. So far, these devs haven't given me reason to doubt them. If all of these patches, or if all of these changes are fully implemented in the way that they state in the patch notes, then that would be a very, very nice improvement to the game. And I'd say, until proven otherwise, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. But changing AI, I'll see it when I believe it. Well, I'll believe it when I see it. Okay, what else did they change? Defensive evaluation for frontline positions were adjusted. I'm not exactly sure how to take that. Defensive evaluations for frontline positions were adjusted. And also evaluation of potential surrounding situations were adjusted. See, that one I can make sense of. Because the AI sometimes didn't quite understand that you were surrounding them, cutting off potentially vital parts of their area. And right now, they do. So that is in patch 1.1. They do know now. Or at least they should react to it more accordingly. So ideally, they're not going to be that easily fooled or that easily surrounded, causing potentially anywhere to 5, 10, 15, 20 stacks or 15 chips of their units to get stuck. Movement system was adjusted to ensure appropriate minimum defenses and still attempt an effective assault when overextended. So, as I'm reading this, I'm going, okay, so you've changed the way that the AI allocates their forces to ensure appropriate minimum defenses and still attempt an effective assault when overextended. I'm not sure who's overextended, if they're referring to the AI or if they're referring to me as a player. But I suspect that they're still going to launch attacks, the AI that is, even when maybe it's not in their best interest. Even when overextended. Opportunity assaults versus empty regions were refined. So if you leave a region empty, the AI is going to probably barge in more so than it used to. Attack probability was adjusted to scale more closely with game difficulty. So let's say that you're playing on Recruit, the AI is not that likely to attack. If you're playing on the highest difficulty, well, you're likely going to have a rough time. Then, Field Commander changes. Again, AI. AI aggressiveness adjusted to avoid aggressive rallying if defensive companies' counts are low. So, what I've seen happen in my campaign is that the AI likes to, even if they're defending, or even if they should be defending, they just rush in. They attack with everything they have. That's not going to happen as much anymore, because they're going to be a little bit more conservative with their forces. So the AI aggressiveness was adjusted down, most likely. Desire to exit trenches when initiating a rally or assault if enemies are near was reduced. This is something I've seen the AI do quite a bit as well. When it is not in their best, let's say it's not in the best interest to start pushing out of a trench. I've seen them do this repeatedly, and I've punished them repeatedly for doing so by just hammering them with artillery the moment that they get out of a trench. Even if they're getting pushed. You don't want, need, or should get out of a trench the moment that you're getting pushed. But the AI did. And with this patch, they don't do that as much. The desire to exit trenches was reduced. Size of ambushes for underprotected control points was reduced. What do they mean with ambushes? Does this mean that the AI suddenly spawns in a whole bunch of units? Like they're keeping some reserve and springing a trap on you? Maybe, I'm not sure. Desire to return to failed ambush locations while on defense was reduced. So, supposedly that they did try an ambush, i.e. you're attacking a control point and you think, oh well, there's 3 companies in there, I can take that. And suddenly they spawn in another 10. That, I suspect, is going to be considered an ambush. Previously failed ambushes or scouted control points will no longer be ambushed or scouted again unless capture progress is made. This, in tandem with the previous one, I'd say beware ambushes in general. Build rate of trenches was adjusted according to difficulty. What I'm reading is the higher the difficulty, the more likely the AI is to build a ton of trenches. If you're playing on a lower difficulty, they might have fewer trenches, so you're going to have an easier time. Light tanks will now be used in assaults more consistently. I can't really speak to this because in my campaign I haven't made it to tank warfare quite yet, although I'm getting there pretty soon. So I don't know how much the AI used to use tanks, light tanks, in assaults and how that's changed now. The frequency of enemy troops in your trenches calling bombardments on neighboring trenches was reduced. Yeah, I've seen the AI do this as well. They take one of your trenches, and immediately they start pounding the crap out of the trench right next to them, effectively hitting their own men. Or at least being at grave risk of hitting their own men. That, apparently, has been tuned down. So, ideally, they shouldn't be doing that anymore. Infantry hesitance to approach enemy tanks and fort turrets was increased. The infantry really does not like to get close to a tank. Wonder why. They're gonna be even less happy to get close to a tank in this patch. Observation balloon purchases in pre-battle while defending were adjusted. Yeah, okay, so I suspect the field commander AI, so the enemy AI, is going to be using fewer balloons. I'm not 100%. It just says they were adjusted, not up or down or sideways, just adjusted. Tanks are no longer aggressive towards fort turrets. This is most likely going to be happening on the Verdun map, which I haven't played. I just surrounded it and skipped that particular part of the map. In this situation, the tanks, basically, unless they have a cannon, are not likely going to be doing anything useful against a fort. And because of that, the aggressiveness towards a fort has been reduced. That's my interpretation of events. Desire to continue assaulting a control point after repeated failed attempts was reduced. So let's say you have a position that is really well defended. Time and time again, the AI crashes into your defenses. You hold, and they keep trying. Ideally, they don't do that anymore. Because they desire just to keep hammering away at the same control point, even if you manage to defeat it or defend it time and time again, they're not going to be too happy about that anymore. Pre-battle bombardment now scales more closely to siege or to total siege weaponry count. I'm not sure how much it scales. I've only used, I think, up to 40% in one of a stream, and that worked pretty well. How much it scales now, I don't exactly know. It doesn't say in the patch notes. Chance of using smoke artillery effectively was increased. The AI in my campaign hasn't used smoke. I've seen one rolling barrage, but no smoke. And if the AI knows how to use smoke, well, that's going to make your trenches a lot more difficult to defend. Rally and attack pacing was adjusted to encounter larger assault waves. Sorry, to encourage larger assault waves. Well, this is going to be fun. I've seen very sizable waves of attack by the AI. And the real question is, how much bigger is it going to get? Because I've seen them use very serious attack waves, probably 70% of their pop cap of 30 companies. Yet, apparently that's not big enough. Apparently they're going to go bigger. So, yeah, better make sure you defend those positions very well. And if you hold, it might, again, in tandem with one of the previous points, reduce the desire to continue assaulting a control point with a failed attempt. Tanks being damaged by artillery now attempt to move if possible. Apparently, the tank AI, or the AI, uses tanks, and if you hit them with arty, they just stand there and take it. Right now they're going to try and move, which is probably the best choice of a tank. Next, AI will now surrender when below a minimum threshold of defensive companies and reinforcements remaining if the score is not in their favor. Now this is really good, because you could knock out every company on the map and still not win. If you didn't capture all the control points, you could still lose. So this situation where if the AI figures out that, oh crap, well actually I don't have any men left, they're just going to surrender, which is going to make the game a lot more fluent and more intuitive, I'd say. Next up, reinforcements were updated, so the AI will attempt to spawn them from outside of the combat range of players' companies. The AI loves spawning in companies right on top of your companies. If they have a spawn point close by, they will use it. And with this patch, they will not. This is going to be really valuable, especially if the AI doesn't figure out that the unit that is close to their spawn happens to be a tank, because you could just spawn camp them. And if that is over, then the AI is going to be, well, not a ton more competitive, but it'll definitely give them a lot of advantages. Communications trench construction now scales more closely with game difficulty. I'm not sure if it's up or down. I've seen the AI use a lot of comms trenches, and there's also quite a bit of discussion going on about it in the comments. Do you want to have comm trenches between your lines? Personally, I do not, because the lines, let's say you have 3 lines of trenches, one after the other. If one line gets taken, the enemy will use your comm trenches and move forward into your own line, which does not give you an opportunity to shoot them. So that's why I don't connect my trenches. I'm not sure if the AI is programmed in such a way that it favors getting more different lines connected, or is now going to make it so that they don't connect them. I don't know exactly what the AI is going to do. We'll just have to see. Tanks on defense will now patrol between owned control points. This is really good. Like I said, I haven't seen the AI use tanks much yet. Apparently they just kept them around, and by doing so, they made it so that they were only patrolling, or sorry, they were only defending one control point. Now they're going to be patrolling from one point to another. Flamethrower companies will now avoid melee where possible. I hope that the whole, let's say, intelligence of a flamer company is improved, because when I used flame companies, they just basically got murdered very easily without doing much, because I found that most of the time they just kind of stand there and wait until somebody shoots them. I haven't found it very intuitive to use them, but that might just be a me problem as opposed to a game problem. Alright, moving on to tanks and aircraft. Increased mortar damage versus tanks by 50%. So a mortar already was a good way to get rid of a tank, and now it's even better. Top armor, not very good. Reduced speed of the FT tanks by 34%. Reduced speed of the whippets by 30%. Reduced the health of the FT tank by 33%, and then reduced the health of the whippets by 16%. These tanks are going to be far easier to kill. Reduced health of the Sturmpanzerwagen by 27%. Reduced the supply cost of the FT tanks to 30/60, and it used to be 40/80. So they're cheaper, but they also die faster. And they have updated, I'm not sure if they should say updated or increased, updated tank replenishment cost. So, the way I'm reading it, they just made tanks more expensive to replenish. Moving on to structure and artillery. Scatter radius of light arty barrage was reduced by 40%. Light arty, fantastic to suppress large swaths of trenches. Apparently that's going to be made more difficult because the suppression range is smaller. Effect radius of suppression shell was reduced by 50%. Bloody hell. Per shell. Okay. With one well-placed salvo, you could just suppress, well, what you're looking at right now on the screen, like 4 trenches. That's supposedly no longer going to be true. You're going to be taking a lot more suppression, or a lot more arty, in order to suppress. Slow effect radius for barbed wire. I forgot one. Target decal and telegraph decal of light artillery suppression barrage to match new scatter radius. So, the way that you can see it on the map when you click it and say, this is where I want to shoot, that's going to be reduced. Or, well, it's going to be matching what you can expect them to be. Next up, slow effect radius for barbed wire and razor wire increased by 11%. This is good, because barbed wire, it did slow them down, but it didn't feel like it was doing a whole lot, and they've increased that by 11% for both barbed and razor wire. Degradation count for barbed wire and razor wire increased by 66%. So it's gonna degrade a heck of a lot faster. That is not exactly inspiring me to use it more. Supply cost for the improved firing trench was reduced to 20. It used to be 30. And the supply cost for the advanced firing trench was reduced to 30, which used to be 50. Those advanced firing trenches were really expensive. Yes, they keep your infantry safe from basically everything, except for the biggest guns and gas attacks. That's no longer the case. So, sorry, that's well, it's still the case. It's still going to be the case. It's just going to be a lot cheaper to actually build those. I like it. Mortar damage, effect radius increased by 50%. I guess the mortars were underperforming relative to other platforms. And because of that, the mortars got a buff. Not only do they do more damage to tanks, but also their damage effect radius increased by 50%. And here's more. Mortar cost was reduced to 30 to match machine gunness, and it used to be 45. So not only are mortars more effective against tanks, do they make sure that they do more damage, but they're also cheaper. I'm thinking they might be more effective than machine guns at this point. I'm not sure if they should have done all of these buffs at the same time. I mean, against the tanks, yes. Against the infantry damage, yes. But also reducing their cost? They're already indirect fire weapons, and that makes them a lot easier to use, in my opinion, and keep safe, generally, than machine guns. Because machine guns tend to get taken out quickly, depending on how well you position them. Moving on. Cost of concrete bunkers was reduced by 50. It used to be 60 and 75. So the concrete structures are reduced. That's very good. Base anti-structure grenade damage and upgrade bonus reduced by 25%. So you're no longer going to be doing as much damage with your grenades against structures. That's going to be useful. Well, depending on what side you're on. If you're defending, great. If you're attacking, oh shit. Damage to armor modifier for anti-structure grenades versus concrete was increased by 20%. So, they do more damage to the armor of the structure? Or there are specific anti-structure grenades? I'm not even sure what infantry carries an anti-structure grenade. Raiders just carry a lot of grenades. Standard infantry companies carry basic grenades. I'm not sure exactly how this is going to be playing out. Artillery airburst shells now do minor damage to weapon emplacements and artillery cannons. That is interesting. Then there's a bit that says we've also applied the following fixes. Pause game hotkey was moved to spacebar and converted to a toggle. So something happens and you quickly want to respond, you hit the spacebar, you give new orders, you move on. Firing arc display hotkey was moved to the apostrophe key. I didn't even know that was a thing, but I guess. Okay. Withdrawal key was removed to Shift C, and hotkeys for selling objects and undeploy were removed. I didn't even know they had hotkeys for that. Theater Commander. Fixed issue where the new corps could spawn in their default region after it had been captured by the enemy. This is something that was happening apparently in Calais. If you're playing as the Germans and you capture Calais, they can still spawn in units. That has been fixed. Excellent. Fixed an issue where supply values were being incorrectly calculated post-battle. That's going to be useful, making sure that we actually get the right supply units, or the supply count. Or that the AI gets the right supply count, even better. Fixed an issue where where captured/lost region stats were not properly tracking at theater level. Excellent. Fixed tech tree not opening when selecting required tech hyperlinks within strategic event pop-up. Again, I didn't even know this was a thing, that you could click on that and just get beamed over to the tech tree and go, this is what you need. I generally just had to look around, but apparently you can now click it. Okay, cool. Adjusted win state check so that the campaign ends at the end of the turn when a winning action, HQ capture or national will reduced to 0, has been completed. Good. I've had it happen. I had a campaign where I got the enemy national will to 0, and the campaign didn't end. So now it will, /should, is going to be, depending on when you watch this. Field Commander fixes. Fixed an issue where bombers could not target enemy positions. Fixed an issue where aircraft would not leave the map after running out of fuel. Yeah, I've seen that happen. Especially in the stream with Braugh Monroe. I've seen aircraft just circle forever. No idea what they were doing. They weren't getting resupplied, they weren't getting refueled, they were just there. Fixed an issue where forests would not hide infantry correctly. Forests are a bit iffy. To the sense that you never quite know if you're going to be invisible or not. I thought it was a feature, I guess it's a bug. Thankfully. Fixed an issue. Sorry, 2 passing companies will now engage in melee combat if they're moving in a trench that can be garrisoned. Excellent. I've had a lot of incidents where I had 2 trenches, or 2 companies of mine in a trench, and the AI rushed in, and just started Congo lining from one trench to another. And now apparently that's been shut down, so that they're not going to be able to do that. They will just stop. They will just go man-to-man melee combat. Excellent. Fix an issue where enemy infantry could be seen in trenches during pre-battle. Yes, I have seen that. I thought it was a feature. Guess it's a bug. Fixed an issue preventing time controls from working as intended. Well, that sucks. I didn't even know that was a bug. Glad they fixed it. Fixed an issue where Gurkhas would not use their grenades to attack machine gun nests, mortars, artillery, or observation balloon trucks. Yeah, that's kind of useful. Fixed an issue where control point spawn points would flip to the invading force before capture was secured. Wow. That's annoying. So, you could be capturing an objective, not have it captured yet, and you could already start spawning in. Yeah, that's a little messy. Glad they got that. Updated the battle results to show the gold reserves spent more accurately. What? Was that inaccurate? Okay. Fixed an issue where machine gun nests and bombers could fire into forests. Okay. I guess they can't do that anymore. Fixed unit tray shift selection, so it now works with both left to right and right to left button shift clicking. Okay, so that's going to be made easier. Bloody hell, there's a lot of fixes. Let's go through these in a slightly more efficient manner before we're going to be here for the rest of the day. Fixed issue where players were charged supply for persistent trenches. That's a really critical one. That's a really critical one. The game prides itself on having persistent trenches, but since it was not exactly persistent, you had to rebuy every trench every time. That's no longer going to be the case. So if you have an area where you're defending, this means that you're going to be paying for that trench that you buy once. If it gets destroyed, you might have to buy it again. Otherwise, you can just get those supply points that you've been using to buy that trench and use them somewhere else now. That's a really good one. Fixed an issue where players were charged full price for upgrading persistent trenches. Excellent. Barbed wire fix, so now persists between campaign battles. Excellent. Barbed wire, like trenches, you had to rebuy it. Excellent fix. Fixed an issue where pre-placed and then upgraded trenches could not be deleted. Yep, had that happen. You could remove some of them. Fixed an issue causing only allies to take morale penalties from siege barrage, no matter who initiated them. So, you could be playing as the allies, you fire a siege barrage and the allies themselves go, oh fuck, what was that? That was your own arty, you idiot. Okay, cool, they fixed that. Fixed an issue where UI trench would sometimes disappear. Yes, have that happen. Fixed an issue with arty companies not registering as deployed for the destroyed artillery objective. Okay. Mortars instantly destroy at the start of a battle. That sucks. You buy mortars only to watch them get blown up at the start of the battle. Fixed an issue where barbed wire and razor wire remained on the minimap after being destroyed. Yep, seen that too. Sometimes you go, what? The map says there's razor wire or barbed wire and it's just not there. That's good that they fixed that. Fixed an issue where observation balloons would not work correctly in historic battles and tutorial. Can't speak to that. I haven't played the historic battles yet. Fixed an issue where placing machine gun nests caused the command cap icon to flash. Yeah, machine gun nests don't do any interaction with the command cap, so that shouldn't be a thing. Fixed an issue where trenches could show as orange during the transition from pre-battle battle. Okay. Why? I mean, if you want to have your trench be a bit more happy than painted orange, I guess, but beyond that, I don't know why. Fixed an issue where core that were turn locked due to movement and therefore not taking part in the battle were still contributing to national attribution of machine guns, mortars, and artillery. Fixed an issue where troops at emplacements would animate incorrectly in the fog of war. Fixed an issue where players' machine gun nests would spawn within range of the enemy in the Verdun historic battle. Can't speak to that, haven't played it. AI fixed an issue where ceasefire activating while the AI is capturing the enemy HQ. What? So the AI would try to go into a ceasefire while it was capturing your HQ? That's interesting. They haven't captured it yet. And you might still have the other control points, so yeah, that should be fixed. Glad it was. Verdun historic battle fix. Some historic battle fix. Players are now able to join password protected lobbies. That's nice. That's kind of what passwords are for. This one is important. Capturing the command trench will no longer pause the battle timer. I had this happen in multiplayer. I captured the enemy's command trench and the game timer stopped. Which means that the player in command of the enemy command trench dictates when the battle, or when or if the battle timer continues by letting the enemy recapture it. It was a bit exploity, and I'm glad they fixed that. Issues causing the multiplayer menu to disappear were fixed. Players will no longer be able to guess enemy trench layouts by looking for trees toppling during pre-deployment. I didn't even know that was a thing, but that's clever. That's a clever way of figuring out where the trench might be. An issue preventing the call of siege already after the command trench had been captured was fixed. So I guess if you had the enemy command trench, they could no longer call in siege already. That's fairly important. Some changes to the tutorial. I'm going to skip over those. And some cosmetic changes. I don't find those to be that interesting. Various fixes have been fixed. Various crashes have been fixed. Main menu formatting improvements were added. Encyclopedia resolutions options will no longer disappear after changing them. Cool, thank you. Yeah, just various other fixes. None of them I find very critical. Anyway, really nice to see a lot of things get fixed. A lot of issues I personally encountered and sometimes mentioned as I was playing the battles in the campaign. The snipers magically shooting might still be happening, but at least there won't be as many snipers. Persistent trenches are now actually a thing, as opposed to no longer, or as opposed to just having to rebuy the trench every single time. Same for barbed wire. It's going to make it far, far more effective to defend. But keep in mind, that works both ways. If you want to get a victory on a map, you better be doing it in the first, I don't know, 2 attacks, 3 attacks, depending on how many stars you need. Because if you don't, and if this thing drags on for months, then it's going to be... Well, let's say it's going to be a more authentic World War I situation. I think that would kind of frame it. It's going to be far more difficult to actually capture that territory, because the enemy is going to be building trenches upon trenches upon trenches. And they can fall back for days. Anyway, really happy to see these fixes. I'm looking forward to trying them out. As for if you're watching my campaign, I haven't yet recorded with the new patch. I've recorded a bunch of more episodes with the old version. So a bunch of the stuff that you're currently seeing, I am not actively using yet. Anyway, thank you for joining this video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, give it a like so other people can find it easier. And if there are any things that you think still need to get fixed, by all means report them to the devs, and together we can make the game even better. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon for more.